Castration movie, part 2, The Best of Both Worlds. This is a movie that was crowdfunded back in February, and it's already released part 2, and with a part 3 coming, we'll talk about that at the end. And I loved part 1. When I did my initial video for part 1, I had only seen... This can get a little confusing, so I'm going to try to keep it as clear as I can when talking about it, but I will mess this up in my own head. Castration movie has currently 2 parts. They're each about 5 hours, but in those 2 parts, they're each sectioned into 2 sections of the movie. So I'm going to be calling it Part 1 with Section 1 and 2, and then Part 2 with Section 3 and 4. And hopefully I remember to do that throughout the video. If I don't, I will put it on screen if I fuck it up, because I will fuck it up. I can almost guarantee you. Anyway, back to the discussion. So when I initially made my video for Castration movie Part 1, I'd only really seen Section 1. I did not get a chance to watch all of Section 2. I had started a little bit of it, but I hadn't had a chance to finish it because the crowdfunding was going to end at the end of the week, and I wanted to put a video out asking people to please go fund this movie because I thought it would be great. And I was right. I finished Part 1, and Section 2 was by far the best part of this. I know we haven't talked about Castration movie 2 yet. We will get there. I know this is supposed to be a video about it, but we will get there, I promise. I finished part 1 about 2 days later, and Section 2 is currently my favorite part of this entire anthology. The focus on Traps as a character was great. The overarching story was very good. I will remake that Castration 1 video in the future. I do want to talk about the whole thing individually, but this is going to focus on part 2. So, how good was part 2? I should note, I received a review copy of this movie back at the end of August, and I'm just really bad at making videos, so it just took forever. I am very far behind, but I did receive a review copy. I asked Louise Ward if I could have one, and she gave me one. And I appreciate that very much, and I'm sorry that this video took this long. My bad. But I did ask for a copy, received one, and I think I should probably disclose that. Also, to be clear, I did help fund this movie. Not that I have a ton of money, but I did support the crowdfunding at the... I don't know, it was Canadian money. I want to say it was like $150. I got the Blu-ray and the vinyl. I know in the video I said I was going to get like just the Blu-ray, but I really liked the music in part 1, so I ended up wanting the vinyl too, so I got both. I don't remember how much that was. It doesn't really matter. The point is just that I did help fund this, so while that does not color my opinion of the movie, I think it's worth pointing out that yes, I did help fund the movie, and yes, I did receive a review copy of the movie, and I'm just very far behind because I'm very bad at making videos. All that out the way. Castration movie part 2. Is great. It is absolutely amazing. I love Circle. Circle was so much fun to watch. I felt very bad for them, especially towards the middle and end. I do like that this one is more connected. Maybe I'm just dumb. I didn't really think that in part 1, sections 1 and 2 were connected. They didn't seem to be. I do want to go back and rewatch it. But it didn't seem to be connected, or at least not as connected. This one is like, there's an intermission between the 2 sections, but it might as well just be one 5-hour movie. And it's great. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. It opens very hard with the trans cult orgy happening. You're gonna have to get used to a lot of weird shit if you watch this movie. It is something. I think the best way to describe this is it is very John Waters, like early John Waters like. It is very trashy. But that's what makes it great. Like, yes, I love the low budget, like rough aesthetic that it comes with it. That's what I praised in the first video. And I still love that here. That is a lot of fun. The way it's made, just the vibes of it are great. But also, I love trashy media in general. I think it's a lot of fun. I don't think everything needs to be super clean and polished. And while those movies do have their place, and they are great. I'm not, obviously, I do talk about those quite a bit as well. I think people need to take a step back and see things that are a lot more raw, a lot more real, and that's kind of where this comes in. It is very much, and I say this with all the positivity in the world, trashy and disgusting, and it reminds me so much of the early John Waters movies. Not so much in that it's trying to be just over the top, like filthy, like it's not like Pink Flamingos eating shit, but also Circle does fall into a cum bucket, and so like maybe it is, I don't know, but it is a lot of fun. Back to the main part of this video. Part 2, Section 3 is great. It is so much fun. You spend the entire time in this like small, like it's just a basement with like a toilet, but everyone is just, there's like 9 people crowded down there. All they do is eat hot dogs and drink their like astrology water. It's a cult. It is just a cult, and you can see it's a cult immediately. But the characters act like it's not a cult, but also act like it is a cult. They spend the entire time talking to this weird robot computer thing that we never get a better explanation of what that is. And it's strange. It is very strange. It is very uncomfortable, but that's kind of what makes it work for me. It is incredibly uncomfortable and odd the way they do things. They are like constantly on ketamine. They are talking, but they talk in like that therapy speak that is not that, like it's like they're using therapy speak in the worst possible way all of the time. There's like little groups who clearly don't like each other. Really nothing actually happens. Like there's a lot of little drama. Like they spend like, I don't know, a half hour talking to one of the people in this cult dungeon that is like, they think they're a cat, and they're like licking their hands, and they can't pick up their cup because they're a cat, and they eat in a weird way because they're a cat, and it's very funny. A little meta, but very funny. And then they try to like argue whether or not this is okay, and other people are like, well, what if I just start acting like a cat? And she's like, no, I'm the only one who can act like a cat. She's like, no, I'm the only one who can be a cat. You aren't actually a cat. I'm a real cat. And it's very funny, especially if you, I don't know how you're watching this movie if you don't have some level of understanding of just larger trans culture, but at the same time, you might be, and if you are, you kind of have to. Some of these jokes can be a little inside baseball. If you don't know what makes this funny, you might not find it super funny. You might just think it's a little cringy, but it's supposed to be. And some of it is like, if you go completely the opposite direction on trans things, you might look at this and be like, see, I know that's what those degenerates were. And it's like, no, but it's fun. Like, anyone can be trashy. Anyone can be a shitty person. And that's not like a trans exclusive thing, obviously, but it's also not a cis exclusive thing. And like, believe me, yous are trashy too. Cis people, you are trashy too. We all are. Don't get up on your fucking high horse here, all right? Yes, Catgirl is ridiculous. Yes, it is perfectly, yes, mocking her is fun, but it's clearly a mockery of what people think of trans people. Like, this entire section, the entire trans cult thing, really just comes across as a mockery of what the right wing believes trans people are. It is so over the top and so ridiculous that it comes across as just a mockery of it, especially in this part of the story. I will say, though, as we shift into Section 4, or the ending, the second half of Part 2, it becomes a different movie entirely. We start following Circle as they are just around in New York. They are in Bushwick. They go to a party. The party scene is incredibly funny, but also really weird because there's like two halves of the screen playing, and they're both very loud. It's very noisy and aggressive, and it's fun, but it does take a toll, at least for me. Like, I was very uncomfortable but I'm also uncomfortable with lots of people and loud noises, so, like, maybe that's just a me thing. I kind of skipped this, but in the end of part 1 and during this party in part 2, we do get a small role by Agnes. She's pretty well known on Twitter, but more importantly, she's very funny in this. It's at the end of part 1, but the scene where Circle goes to like collect their goods, and they were with Agnes at some point. Agnes has all their stuff. I don't remember what the character's name was in the movie, but the character's played by Agnes, and she's very funny. She kind of steals the ending of part 1 by being very entertaining. And then she does cameo a little bit in part 2 during the party. You see her again just kind of being around. She doesn't make any like major appearance in that part though. But after the party, Circle is following around and talking to a girl, and they really just travel around Bushwick. They talk to these people on a step and they like kind of push them into saying whether or not Circle looks like a male or female. That's kind of funny because like clearly she's a trans woman, so like it could go either way, and especially in this case, I think she looks more feminine, but that's just me. But clearly they do too, but also there is like a certain level of masculinity, so like they recognize that Circle is trying to present female, but also that they were at one point male, and so they're kind of like dancing around it because they realize what the correct answer is. But Keller keeps trying to kind of push them to give a real non-political response, and like it's funny. It is funny. Eventually they do requiesce. They kind of look like they could be male, and at that point Circle kind of lights up a little bit. It feels very much like Keller is trying to push Circle into being a more of a cis male, or at the very least a more androgynous male as opposed to a trans woman. And that seems to be the overarching story here. But after that, we kind of drop that for a while, and they go to someone else's house. They just meet some guy and end up in his house. Keller's kind of a dick. Like, just generally speaking, Keller's kind of an asshole, which is both funny, but also it can be a little grating sometimes. I think that's the point, but it can be a little grating sometimes. And then we follow that with them going to eat, and then Circle decides that they're going to go back to the trans cult to pick up their cup and belongings, and that's all they're supposed to be there for. They're supposed to go in, get their belongings, and leave. And this is where the movie kind of takes a turn, where the cult goes from kind of like feeling like a mockery of like what the right wing believes trans people to be, and more into a little bit more of a serious threat. It does just have a very distinct feel from the earlier portion of the movie. And at this point, they kind of berate Circle into like, why are you leaving? But also, after a few minutes, they strip Circle and stick her in a dog cage, and then they like pelt her with hot dogs and dump the astrology water on her head. And they just yell at Circle the entire time. And at this point, the movie's obviously a little sad, but also it's more disturbing. Like, it becomes a much different feeling movie. Like, early in the movie, it's very funny. Even when things are a little bit more serious, they do come across with a comedic tone. This part of the movie is not very funny. It is just like they're just torturing Circle for, I want to say, about an hour. Like, we watched this for about an hour of constant torture to Circle. We do not leave this room. We do not leave. Like, the camera just stays on Circle and kind of shifts to other people in the room. But there's no, like, transition. We never go back to anything for a significant amount of time. And when we finally do, it's just to see Keller discuss where Circle went, what they're going to do. And then Keller tells her friend about where Circle went. And she's like, oh, no, I know that place. When they are in a basement and talking about eating hot dogs all the time, that's the cult. That's the trans cult. That's also very dangerous. And at this point, it kind of starts to blur the line between making fun of the way certain people view trans people and like being an actual threat. Keller goes to buy a gun, which is very funny because the gun salesman's like, no, I'm only arming the dolls. I'm not selling to you. But eventually Keller does go down to the basement to get Circle out, and that's a whole thing. She has a gun, but like it's not loaded. and she threatens to get Circle out. She eventually does get Circle out. Somehow, Circle falls into a cum bucket. It's disgusting. She's like slimy all over herself. She does she does threaten to kill herself, which is, the way everything's happening. The shit hit the fan real quick. It was crazy. At this point, the movie is very, very good, and it's moving in a way that is exciting. And then it ends. Like, they leave, and then the rest of the cult members leave, and then it's just over. I know that's a long thing, but that's just like a part of the plot. Overall, part 2 was great. At present, I would say part 2 is more quality. Like, it's a better part overall than I think part 1 is. Part 1, at least for me, I loved section 2. Everything with Traps, everything from the intermission onwards, really, is great. I love the Traps story. I love the characters we meet. I love the Vera Drew sections. Like, she's so funny in this, and like all of that is a lot of fun. As much as I like section 1, I think section 1 is still the weakest section of it for me. Mostly just because it deals with like the Reddit incel, and like it's fun, it's funny, but it's not as good, really. Like, there's 4 sections, one of them has to be the worst, and that's kind of the worst section to me, but also section 2 is like the best section, which makes it a little hard to kind of compare to part 2, because part 2 feels so connected. Like, part 2 just feels like one 5-hour movie with an intermission, whereas part 1 felt like 2 distinct sections that have an intermission between them, but it's like they feel much more unrelated. So for me, I liked part 2 as a whole quite a bit better. But I do think that section 2 of part 1 is the best part of this anthology so far. With that being said, I do recommend watching all of this. Both part 1 and part 2 of Castration movie are fantastic. They are incredible. I think you should watch them. I think not everyone. I don't think everyone should watch them, though. There is a certain subset of people who probably should not watch this, because I do not think it paints a great picture of, trans people in general, and I think that's fine. I don't think it's supposed to. It's supposed to be, this raw or more disgusting take, and I mentioned this a lot in the beginning. I think it's supposed to be that way, and I like that it's that way. But we also kind of live in a world where people already hate trans people, so like the wrong kind of person watching this is just going to have all of their worst beliefs confirmed, and like it's not going to work for you. You're just going to hate people more. But to be honest, those kind of people aren't going to watch this anyway. So I don't think it actually matters. But if you somehow are that kind of person, I don't know why you're even here. I don't see why you'd want to watch this video. I don't see why you'd want to watch this movie. And for the people that do want to watch this movie, if you hear this, if you see what this movie is about, just vaguely, and are like, yeah, I'm going to sit down and watch that, you're probably going to enjoy it. It is a lot of fun. Yes, the runtime is extremely long. Both parts combined is roughly 10 hours, which is very long. However, there is intermissions. It is technically broken into 2 parts, and each section is only a regular movie length, 2.5 hours, which is fine. I think at that point, just watch it. Each section has its own movie. You obviously don't have to watch all 10 hours at one time, but you don't even have to watch all 5 hours at one time. You can watch it in sections, and like that breaks it down to be much easier to digest, and that's fine. I have been on record saying I don't really love super long movies. It is a little too much, but that's because you really often can't break them down into smaller sections, because they are just like one overarching plot. But in this case, like I said, they're kind of not. While section 2 is, the intermission does offer a break at a point where the story changes drastically. Section 4 acts more like a sequel to section 3 as opposed to being one movie. It's more like, say, Back to the Future 2 and 3, where they're kind of all one thing, but like they're still 2 separate movies, right? So I think in that way it does work, regardless of the fact that it is extremely long. And lastly, there is a preview at the end of this for part 3, which looks amazing. Louise Ward is back in this one. It seems to be a more prominent role. I'm assuming it's still going to be Traps. I'm pretty sure I heard Traps' actual name said during the previews. So, like, I'm assuming that we're going to follow Traps again, which is great. Love to see it. Definitely excited for that. Vera Drew is back. And funny as ever, talking about crypto and how she made $1 billion on Melania coin or whatever. And it very funny preview. I cannot wait for part 3. When funding the movie, like when the crowdfunding was happening, it was really just for a part 2. And we're getting a whole part 3 as well. And that's great. I'm very glad that Louise was able to make so much out of what she had. Like, this is such a low budget movie. The amount of money she made to make this movie is not like a ton, and she's doing so much with it. This is a truly incredible feat in terms of what can be done on such a low budget. This movie is amazing. I can't wait for part 3. And honestly, watch part 1 and part 2 while they're out. They're like basically free. You can pay, I think it's like $4 or $5 to get access to both. You can pay whatever you want, but you can get it as low as a couple dollars on Gumroad. We'll link that below. But you can get like the entire movie, and it's absolutely worth it. It is absolutely worth purchasing. Anyway, thanks for watching. Definitely go support this movie. Buy it, do what you can to show support for it, but it is already in development. It's already, obviously part 2 is already done, but part 3 is already on its way, and it looks great. I'm sure it will be great, and part 1 and part 2 have been great. Very excited. Very much love this movie. Definitely go watch it. Bye. Also, side post-credit scene here. I just want to touch on this. This is more about me than about the movie, though. Obviously, I have zero to do with this movie, right? I funded I put money, I spent money. I have zero to do with this movie. I simply spent money on a crowdfunding to help get the movie made. So, in no way am I taking any credit, any responsibility, nothing. I have done nothing with this movie. I simply gave a very relatively small amount of money towards this production. However, I'm incredibly happy to see my name in the production. I'm in the credits, as I think everyone who helped fund the movie is. And, well, it's not a lot. Like, I didn't do anything. I did the one thing I'm good at, and that's spending money. I'm very good at spending money that I don't have. So it was really nice to see my name in the credits, and, be listed as someone, like, this is one of the best movies I think ever made. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that because I like it or because I helped fund it or anything like that. Not only is this movie just being very highly rated, like its letterbox is like a 4.5 or something. It's doing very well in reviews. In the list of the top 250 narrative films by women, it came in at like 12. And that's amazing. That is an extremely high bar for something, again, made on such a low, not just such a low budget, because I don't think money really makes a good movie, but like, this is just someone like making a movie out of their house. Like, this isn't like a big budget thing. This isn't a studio thing. This is just a person making a movie. And I think that's really good. That's really important. But also, it is really just that incredible of a movie. It's nice to be at least somewhat a part of that. Like, obviously, I'm not in any way a part of anything major for it, but my name's in the credits. It's something. Like, to me, that is something that means something that is, it's a nicety. It's a feel-good thing. I don't have a lot of, I have, no subscribers. I have, no views. But at the same time, if there's one thing that this channel did accomplish, it is that I got my name in a movie. I don't know. Feels good, man. Very excited. Very happy that this is out. Can't wait for part 3. Please go watch it. Go support it. It deserves it. Absolutely. But also, it really is just that good. And even in the most minor of ways, being associated with it is, it's something. It does make you feel a little bit better. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.